welcome Chelsea Bieker, author of Madwoman, Godshot, and Heartbroke, and Kimberly King Parsons, author of We Were the Universe and Blacklight, and the founders of The Fountain. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you
Hi.
so much. We're so excited to be here.
And I want to start with first, before we get into talking about The Fountain, because I feel like what I'm about to say plays a little bit into it, but I have to say, as writers, you both create some very real characters. Like having read Bad Woman, for example, and We Were the Universe, both of your books have very strong characters and kind of like full-fledged human beings with very raw and real and like relatable, just complete entities. And I really appreciate that while I was reading it.
Thank you. Yeah, that's the goal, I think, is to try to get somebody who is somebody who we could know or have once been or who hope to never be in our lives.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah, I was just going to say, and you guys kind of touch in both of those books, especially like some very real things. So to see those characters like that and being treated so beautifully and like written so beautifully, I really enjoyed reading.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Yeah, I think that's really what I look for when I read. I so appreciate books that push at that edge of what is maybe more commonly expected, or, I really hate small talk, and I want a book that's not going to have any small talk. I want to
Mm.
get like right into the heart um of themes like motherhood and what it means to age or to be in a long-term relationship or to have come out of trauma. All of those things, I think they deserve like a lot of nuance because that's how it feels to live through them.
Yeah.
And also writing those characters who are maybe not the most likable characters, but in ways that is really full of compassion so that you can understand that there aren't really villains in the world. There's just people who are, trying and failing and making mistakes. But yeah.
Yeah, I will say I appreciated that because I think I like an unreliable narrator and I like having a character that I hate, but like I think your books were different because there was that compassion, there was the empathy and like the real, sympathy for these characters and who they are and how they became who they are and the choices they'll make after and stuff like that. So yeah, that's a great way to put it. Now, can I ask you both, can you give us, the listeners, a little background about your new platform, The Fountain?
Kim and I started teaching together a couple of years ago, and we really loved the process of that co-creation more than I think either of us expected. And we felt like, what would it be like to have a platform that could kind of harness community, learning, classes, and then what we both used in our daily practice, which was, the practice of visualization and meditation. So we really dreamed up this place where you'd be able to access all of those things in one spot. And I can't believe sometimes when I see it because it's like it's similar to writing a book where, right, it starts with the tiniest seed of an idea. And now I can click on the app on my phone and see this beautiful course pop up, like this beautiful platform that before did not exist. So we're in the early phases of rolling it out. It came out in March, but even 2 months in, we have such a beautiful community growing in there. And it's been amazing to really witness people kind of untangle those subconscious blocks that plague so many writers and that stand in the way of so many people accessing their creativity. So, yeah, Kim, what would you add to that?
Yeah, just that we sort of in the same way that, they tell you to write the book you want to read, we sort of made this platform that we wish existed. We were giving each other these sort of pep talks over voice memos, and our friendship is really one based on sort of just limitless support for each other's work. And it's such a gift to have someone like that who's always in your corner, who you can go to and process, every little detail of the journey of how writing gets so hard, and your feelings are so vulnerable, but to have somebody in it with you is so meaningful. And we started to think about, well, how can we scale this? How can we scale this friendship, this sort of this environment where we're able to support each other unconditionally and have this place that's safe to talk about all these things, but then also have these components of the meditation component, which is something we had both, yeah, I was online listening to visualizations and then just pretending that they were talking about writing. You know, no one's actually
Yeah.
talking about writing, but then it's like, what if we make something that's truly for writers that
Mhm.
says, you know, think about the beginning of your novel, think about the endings, like think about the characters in that sort of way where you could take the focus of meditation and apply it to your creative process. So yeah, it's been amazing. And I feel the same way, Chelsea. When I see it, I'm like, I can't believe it exists. I'm so happy that it's here.
What do you think is a really good piece of advice for that? And especially if it involves meditation in any way, like how did those two come together? And I feel like that's a complicated question, but
No,
Yeah,
I think,
no, I hear you.
go ahead, Chelsea.
Definitely, I think the platitude of like just right or like just get out of the way or just conquer that draft. I mean, it's all really like combative language, and part of the fountain is
Mhm.
really starting to align with your project and seeing it as your friend. It's not your enemy. You know, most of our creative blocks, we believe, are things that have sort of probably been born in childhood, you know, these
Mhm.
self-limiting stories that we tell ourselves, and often those are happening on a very unconscious level, but yet we're building our lives around them.
Mhm.
So a story like, you know, I'll never be successful, or I'll never really find the community of my dreams, or whatever it is, we really ask our users, it's like, go in there in that deep meditative space where we can do a lot of this unblocking work and figure out when those beliefs were born. And then we do the work on that, because that's the thing that turns into a block when it's not attended. And then in your waking life, you're like, oh, I'm just so blocked, writing so hard, I take so long. Like you start to say all these self stories, and we really
Mhm.
invite members to question those self stories and be like, is that really true? Or is that a belief system you created pretty early on in your life that is no longer serving you?
And also, we're trying to get people to return to that sort of childlike state of wonder and play and enthusiasm, because enthusiasm is the engine for any project, right? Like, if
Yeah.
you aren't coming to the page excited about what you're going to write, it's going to be a lot harder. And so, yeah, we don't, like Chelsea was saying, there's no like combative language, like conquer the draft. It's like, no, it's a playground. This is one time
Mhm.
where you can do whatever you want, and this is the space for you. And so, figuring out how to sort of rewire our brains into thinking that this is actually fun. This was once fun. You know, most people who are writing, they are readers, they love the written word. And one time it was fun and great. And so something along the way has gotten twisted. And maybe it's, yeah, a story, a self-limiting belief or a story you've been telling yourself,
Yeah.
or maybe just trying to fit it in with your life, but figuring out that that time is not, it's not your enemy. It's a
And
friend.
what is a really important lesson you both have learned, whether it, translates into your writing or your career, or just a part of your life that like helps you be better or whatever it is, like what's a really impactful lesson?
I think I'm still learning it in some
Okay.
ways, right? Like it's a process, but I think that when I started out, like conceptualizing, like, how does one have a writing career? How do I be a successful writer? What does that mean for me? Like, I think there was probably a deep part of me that thought that some success in career was going to equal a relief in emotional pain,
Mm,
or that it was somehow going to compensate for
yeah.
um, whatever, you know, without getting specific, just like the life stuff
Hmm.
that haunts us or causes us psychic pain, and like, and then publishing a book and being like, oh, I'm still me, I'm still actually me. It's like wherever you go, there you are. It's a
Yeah.
similar lesson, but it pertains to writing, where it's like my life certainly did change with publishing, and I I have a readership, I have connections I would have never had otherwise. It opened doors to me. I'm friends with Kim because of it. It's like all these amazing things. So yes, the life does change quite a bit, but there's like the internal self that, you know, that's not this fix, actually. If anything, it's sort of like motherhood, that it's like an alchemizing process where it's going to actually build, it's going to bring up even more stuff to look at, and it's going to be triggering on all these new levels. And like, and so I don't know if that's one singular lesson, but I think for me, the lesson is just about being grateful for like what it is, and really trying to stay in my own lane, and again, like focusing on the work only I can make. Like it really, it almost like it boomerangs back to the work. It always does. The work is the the best part. And that is where like the healing happens, or where the gifts lie, and not necessarily this like other fantasy that of
Mhm.
whatever like location will bring, right? I don't know if I
Yeah.
articulated that well, but it's sort of like recentering always back to the work, back to the self, um, has been the lesson it's taught me over 3 books, I
Mhm.
guess.
No, that's a good answer. It kind of like resonates with me because I always said my idea of what happiness was like this achievable thing, and then you get to a point where you're like, well, then you'll never stop trying to find something better because you'll never be satisfied, and like being able to appreciate, whatever you have or whatever you're doing, is a whole change in
Absolutely.
perspective. What about you, Kim?
I think it's about the self a little bit too. It's about authenticity. And I'm the first person in my family to go to college, and I had this sense of being unprepared. Like, oh, I got into this MFA program, but have I read all the right books? Do I know all the right things? Am I talking about it in a serious way? And I wanted to be taken really seriously. And I had this, professor and Sam Lipsyte at Columbia, and he said, you know what? When I read your stories, like, I see what you're doing, but when I talk to you in person, you're so funny. Aren't your characters funny? Like, why don't they care about the same things that you care about? Like, we're sitting here talking about like hard cheeses or whatever weird thing in his office, and he's like, why doesn't that stuff end up in your work? And it was because I had this complex around wanting to appear appropriate for where I was, right? And
Yeah.
until I realized that the way you get people to find you is by just being your true self, right? So for
Mhm.
years, I was like hiding things about myself where I grew up in a small town in Texas. So it's like, oh, I'm queer, but I can't tell anyone. Oh, I'm not religious. I can't tell anyone that. So I had all these things that I was hiding, thinking that they were bringing people to me or keeping people in my life. But what I found out was as soon as I owned up to those things and just became my authentic self, not only did the people who really mattered stick around, but all these new people came. They're like drawn to you like a magnet when you're just doing what you can do. And that means writing the work only you can write, and also just living an authentic life, like being authentic in your choices. And there's not that much of a difference now between the way that I write and the things that I care about on the page and the way that I am in the world and the things that I care about in the world. They're very similar. And for a long time, they weren't. It was like, I'm going to write this like serious historical fiction over here, but then over here I'm watching RuPaul's Drag Race and like having a time of my life doing this different thing.
Yeah.
But they were very separate because one felt serious and it was wrapped up in academia, and I felt like it had to be a
Yeah.
certain way. And as soon as I broke free from all that, that's when all of the good things started happening to me.
It's funny you say that because it makes sense with having read We Were the Universe. Like there
Mhm.
is so much just like raw. There's like humor, there's like some real stuff that maybe people don't want to talk about, or feelings that are so relatable that people wouldn't necessarily say. And it like it resonates having read that book that now put in that kind of effect.
Yeah.
Thank
Yes.
you.
And don't tell
Yeah.
yourself no before the world can tell you yes, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I feel like that's it. We're always like self-limiting. And if we just put things out there, they're usually received with so much more open arms than we could have ever imagined.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a good segue for anybody who's listening who like wants to write or wants to kind of hone in on their craft, and they just don't know how, or they're afraid of failing, or they're afraid of trying. Like if you don't, other people are, so why not just get in their arena, as you said. And a nice plug for the fountain if you need some help. So ladies,
That's
where
right.
can
We're here for
people,
you.
yeah, where can people find you? Where can people sign up for the fountain? And especially, where can people buy your books?
So you can find
Yeah.
the
So
fountain. Oh, go ahead.
no,
Are
you
you
go.
okay?
You
You
go.
can find the
Yeah.
fountain at fountainpractice.com. When you're there, you can see our membership options for monthly or annual membership. And we do have intensives that we do. There's one in the summer and one planned for the winter. There's also a really great community of people there, and there's a ton of really cool stuff happening. And then I think for books, you can buy our books wherever books are sold, preferably at your local indie bookstore. And yeah,